Welcome to Behind the Trend, where we break down vision for the North Shore, the winds of change. Have you ever stood on the edge of a shoreline watching the tide turn? There is a specific moment when the water shifts, when the old currents pull back and something new begins to rush in. It is inevitable, it is powerful, and right now, in the political landscape of the North Shore, we are witnessing exactly that kind of shift. Welcome back. Today, we aren't just talking about headlines. We are talking about the heartbeat of a community and the voices rising to shape its future. It is January 5th, 2026. The holidays have just passed, the winter air is crisp, and the political machinery is waking up. We find ourselves looking at a race that is becoming one of the most dynamic we have seen in years. We are talking about the Democratic primary race to replace Seth Moulton. For a while, it seemed like the field was set. But democracy, like life, hates a vacuum and loves a surprise. Just when we thought we knew the players, a seventh candidate has jumped into the race. This isn't just a name added to a ballot. It represents a new energy, a different perspective, and a story that weaves together the compassion of a healer with the grit of a diplomat. Today we are going deep into the announcement of Dr. Mariah Lancaster, the emotional core, anger and empathy. Let's pause for a second. Ask yourself, when you look at the news or look at your bank account, what do you feel? Do you feel heard? Or do you feel a quiet, simmering frustration that the world is moving on without you? Dr. Mariah Lancaster released what can only be described as a fiery announcement video. It wasn't a standard, polished political commercial with vague promises. It was raw. It spoke to that frustration I just mentioned. In this video, Lancaster looked the camera in the eye and said, "We're all getting screwed as billionaire oligarchs divide us and distract us." Feel the weight of those words. Divide and distract. It's a sentiment that resonates with so many of us who feel that the noise of modern politics is designed to keep us from seeing the truth. Lancaster didn't stop there. They spoke about the powers that be, saying, they're profiting off the pain of working Americans. Profiting off the pain. It is a heavy accusation, but it comes from a place of deep empathy. It suggests that this candidate isn't just running for a seat. They are running because they see suffering, and they see a system that benefits from it. This isn't just policy, it's a moral stance. The portrait of a healer. Who is Dr. Lancaster? So, who is the person behind this fire? Who is the human being stepping into this arena? To understand the policy, we must understand the person. Dr. Mariah Lancaster is 36 years old, a millennial, part of a generation that has lived through recessions, rapid technological change, and global uncertainty. But it is their identity and professional background that paints the most fascinating picture. Lancaster identifies as non-binary. This adds a layer of modern representation to the race, a voice that speaks to the diversity of our human experience. But look at the career path. It is incredibly unique for a congressional hopeful. Mariah Lancaster is a veterinary surgeon. Have you ever watched a vet work? It requires a specific kind of soul. You are dealing with creatures who cannot speak, who cannot tell you where it hurts. You have to listen with your hands and your heart. You have to possess a profound instinct for healing. Now imagine taking that instinct, that desire to heal the voiceless, and applying it to a broken political system. It is a powerful metaphor, isn't it? A surgeon who wants to stitch up the wounds of a society. But Lancaster isn't just a healer of animals. They are also a former civil servant. This is where the story pivots from compassion to action. Global experience. Local roots. We often think of empathy and strength as opposites, but in Dr. Lancaster's resume, they are intertwined. According to their website, after working in veterinary medicine, Lancaster served as a foreign affairs officer at the State Department. Think about the scale of that transition, from the intimacy of a surgery room to the vast, complex stage of global diplomacy. And what were they doing there? They were combating environmental crime and corruption around the globe, combating corruption, fighting environmental crime. These are not small tasks. These are battles for the health of our planet and the integrity of our institutions. It suggests a candidate who knows how to navigate the darkest corners of bureaucracy and fight for transparency. Following that service, Lancaster worked as a staffer in Congress. They have seen the beast from the inside. They help Democratic Congresswomen shape policy on massive issues, ranging from agriculture to national security. So when we look at this candidate, we see a triad of experience: the compassion of a vet, the global perspective of a diplomat, and the legislative knowledge of a congressional staffer. It is a rare combination. The fight for the kitchen table. But let's bring it back home. Let's bring it back to the kitchen table where the bills are piled up. Despite all that high-level experience, Lancaster's message is grounded in the struggle of the everyday. In their announcement, Lancaster pointed out a reality that is heartbreakingly familiar. Families cannot afford groceries or medicine. It's the simple, brutal truth of our time. When you walk down the aisle of a supermarket and hesitate before putting a loaf of bread in your cart, that is a policy failure. Lancaster argues that politicians in Washington show little interest in this plight of working people. There's a sense of abandonment that Lancaster is tapping into. They said plainly, "This is the fight we're in. It is not a fight for glory. It is a fight for survival. It is a fight for dignity." And Lancaster believes that the current leadership class has failed us. They delivered a stinging critique of the status quo, saying, "We need leaders, not politicians that send strongly worded letters, deliver canned remarks, and just go home." Canned remarks. We know exactly what that sounds like, don't we? The robotic, rehearsed lines that mean nothing. Lancaster is calling for authenticity. They are calling for leaders who don't just clock out when the job gets hard. A progressive vision, breaking the chains. So what is the solution? If we strip away the canned remarks, what is left? Dr. Lancaster proposes goals that strike at the very machinery of wealth and influence. Among their progressive goals is the prohibition of stock trading by members of Congress. Have you ever thought about how strange it is that the people writing the laws that affect the economy are allowed to bet on the stock market? It creates a conflict of interest that erodes our trust. Lancaster wants to ban it. It is a move to restore ethics to service. Furthermore, they are calling for a ban on Citizens United. This is the Supreme Court ruling that opened the floodgates for unlimited corporate spending in elections. By targeting this, Lancaster is saying that your voice, your human voice, should matter more than a corporation's wallet. It is a bold, progressive platform. It challenges the billionaire oligarchs they mentioned in their opening salvo. It creates a narrative of us versus the system, the arena, a crowded field. However, Dr. Lancaster is not walking into an empty room. As we mentioned at the start, they are the 7th candidate to join this race. Democracy is a chorus, not a solo. The race to replace Seth Moulton has attracted a wide array of voices. The field includes former state representative Jamie Belcito and current representative Tram Nguyen. It includes Dan Coe, John Betsia, Beth Andresbeck, and Rick Jockios. Each of these individuals brings their own story, their own passion, and their own vision for the North Shore. It is a crowded field, which means the voters, you, have a difficult and important choice to make. Each of these individuals brings their own story, their own passion, and their own vision for the North Shore. It is a crowded field, which means the voters, you, have a difficult and important choice to make. But the entry of Dr. Lancaster changes the chemistry of the race. It brings a specific focus on the intersection of corruption, economic pain, and the need for a new kind of fighter, one who has healed bodies and fought global crimes. The question before us. As we look ahead to the 2026 elections, the question isn't just who will win. The question is, what kind of leadership do we crave? Do we want the safe choice? Or do we want the veterinary surgeon who promises to cut out the corruption? Do we want the canned remarks? Or do we want the fiery passion of someone who says, "This is the fight we're in"? Dr. Mariah Lancaster has thrown their hat in the ring. They have identified as a fighter for the working family, a critic of the oligarchy, and a voice for the silenced. The tide is shifting on the North Shore. The water is moving. And as we watch this race unfold, let us remember that every candidate, every speech, and every vote is a thread in the tapestry of our shared future. That's the story behind the trend. Thank you for watching. Stay engaged, stay hopeful, and never forget the power of your own voice.